Good morning. Let me share my screen, my slides.
Deb, I think you are muted.
Oh, dear.
Nope, I believe you're muted now.
All righty. Now can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, and here are our slides. Probably eaten up a bit of our time, so we will definitely have to do this in lightning speed. I'm Deb Hysell. I'm the Dean of Liberal Arts at North Central State College, joined by my colleague, Durham, Director of Student Success and Retention. We at Central State have talked about placement, worked on placement, at least in my lifetime, college, 15 years. I started as an English faculty member. We were a member of Achieving the Dream, and we were part of Achieving the Dream, the Foundation, development education initiatives. So placement is important to us, and the measure has always been like the Rosetta Stone, the nirvana of placement. So we've been working toward that and seriously talking about it for years, but actually our implementation was very fast, almost lightning fast. We are a college of 3,000 students, so I think that for us, implementing change is probably a little bit easier, faster than for some of our larger league schools. This is basically an overview on the slide right now of our process. Data, looked at CCRC data, MDRC, CAP, R data, individual college data. So really convinced on that multiple measures benefit students. We were benefited by our chief academic officer, who took on as her primary strategic goals last year. So kind of influence and backing is really important, and our president also fully supported. So we collected data. We looked at the possible effects on enrollment, visited stakeholder groups, revised placement policies, and we revised placement testing policies, of course. I should say that you're not going to have any success data yet, because we've only applied this. We started in February 2019, adopted it over the recent months, this before COVID, believe it or not, but it has this well in COVID, and have applied it in summer and fall. So don't really have enough data to assess success. That's very important to us. Rationale would be the rationale that would be true for any college. That is, we want more accurate placement because we know the GPA is more accurate predictor of success than test alone. We want faster completion for our students, obviously, so that they can also complete degrees. We wanted to reduce equity gaps. We have often an equity gap of about 10% in our gateway courses, and more efficient placement. So we have been able to succeed in all of those things, except we don't know yet the success for students, but anecdotally we know that it is working in the classrooms. The review of the national data, I said, was mostly CC, NRC, and CAR, and all of the alphabetic great research teams that are out there. But really what was telling for us was a review of our own data. Collected 3 years of GPAs, of high school GPAs of students and their success rates in courses. And there didn't seem to be a strong correlation reported by our institutional research staff. I asked our chair of our mathematics group to take a look at it, and she ran a hypothesis test. Now I'm just reading this because I'm not in depth in statistics. She did a 2-proportion Z test on it with level of significance of 1% and comparing the resulting p-value. Essentially, what she was after is to find out if their students' variation being whether they were successful college English, college math, not. She found that for the days of 2.7, 2.5, and 2.3, all of the students coming in those GPAs were more likely to be successful college English and college math. She obviously did it separately for the groups. So her assessment really was convincing. And of course, there were faculty who have been deeply committed to developmental education. That's been like 20 years of experience. So the analysis by our math department, that was Sarah Rollo, was really telling in moving forward. We met with all of the stakeholders, used that data. We, I think, overwhelmed them with piles of research, national research. So finally, we were able to move toward adoption. And Monica and her staff met with students as part of the normal enrollment process. Our model selection, I've already kind of described it. It was applied to post-high school students only. We adopted 2.7 out of 2.3 to 2.7 because we felt it was safest and it was the more conservative, but of course we will revisit that. We took 2.7 GPA alone for college English, and for mathematics, they also needed successful completion of high school algebra 2 if they wanted to take college algebra, or successful completion of high school trigonometry or pre-calculus for placement into college calculus. So we did use that limitation for mathematics. We use self-reported GPAs because the research indicates that students report reliably, that they often underreport. And we also did not age the GPAs. We also found that, well, our own research actually a few years ago showed that the students whose GPAs were older, our older students, were far more successful than our younger students with fresh GPAs. So we haven't done any aging of GPAs. Our application of multiple measures is 2 phases. We use first the student's GPA, and second, we use their test scores. So if they don't successfully place into college level English or math, then we ask them to take, if they don't already have qualifying test scores, we ask them to take AccuPlacer, and that's how they're placed. We also use that secondary test to place them in developmental courses. We only have one level of developmental English. It is integrated reading and writing. And for math, we have a quantitative reasoning course. And if students are going into algebra, they also take intro to algebra and intermediate algebra combined course. We haven't yet implemented a co-rec algebra course, mostly because the number of students who would need it is very, very small. Policy changes, we did revise the policy changes. What's probably significant here is that when we do policy review at North Central State, it goes through various levels of review: the success team, the management advisory committee, the faculty caucus, the staff caucus, and finally the president's cabinet all sign off on it, which is also a manner of communicating with all those groups. The placement process itself has become far more efficient. Self-reported GPAs are fast. Online testing has also been good and especially important in COVID. And it has been a simple model and easy to implement. And from my point of view as an administrator, it's simple and easy, but I'd like my colleague Monica, who has really been frontline implementing, to comment on anything that she might want to share with you about the nuts and bolts of really applying this in the student services area.
Well, thank you, Deb. I saw that we got the 2-minute warning flash at us. So really quickly, I'll just say that, again, it did ease with efficiency, particularly for our health sciences students and moving into their program. The model was simple and easy to implement. You know, we replaced our convoluted placement chart with a very easy process to follow. When we pivoted to online testing, it allowed for greater speed and convenience for our students. So again, wins all the way around for both staff and students.
I want to quickly show you this enroll, are we done?
I believe
Just
so.
1 minute. Just take a look here. We did improve the placement into college level math and English by about 20% in both areas. So that's been a significant accomplishment. And we will continue to review and report to you later.
All right, good morning, everybody. Hopefully everybody can hear me. Okay, are we on? All right, my name is Brad Eggleston, and we are math specialists for Miami University Regionals. And Ralph and I have the same job description, but our roles and specialties are a little bit different. Okay, I want to make sure everybody can see. Ralph, are we on?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I'm on too. Can you see
Okay.
me too?
Yep, I think we're good.
Okay.
Okay, so like I said, I'm Brad Eggleston. I oversee Middletown Regional Campus. I focus mainly on math placement and providing instruction for non-STEM Dev Ed math students.
And I'm Ralph Steichleather. I oversee Hamilton's Regional Campus. My specialties are providing instruction and math placement support for STEM Dev Ed math students.
All right, and we've got very limited time, so we're going to show you as much as we can, as quickly as we can. So in short, our problem was the same problem faced by many schools across the country last March. The COVID shutdown prevented on-campus placement testing, but the plan for remote instruction still dictated that students needed to be placed. So the solution was, since AccuPlacer, what we'd used up until that point, was going to be cost prohibitive to do remotely, we decided to use tools that we already had built into Canvas, create our own assessment that approximated the job AccuPlacer was doing, and at the same time address some of the changes that we would have liked to see in AccuPlacer. So over the next few slides, we'll explain our approach and our solution to some of these big questions. So non-STEM fields at Miami generally require college level statistics. That's our Stat 261 course, or specialized math classes for education majors. STEM fields generally require higher level math courses and more math overall. So it was important that we serve both distinct groups of students that have their own unique needs and considerations. So our tests serve to place a student into any point along either one of the branches. So for the non-STEM side, we've got our Math 049, that's our Dev Ed level math literacy course. And that leads into the Math 115, which is the math education or math for education majors, or the statistics 261.
And then the possible entry points to the calculus pathway are Dev Ed Algebra, which is our Math 025, Pre-Calculus Math 125, or Calculus 1, Math 151. So we need to find the right balance regarding how many questions to ask and what to ask. More questions would give us better data, but would likely produce diminishing returns as students got bored or tired. There were many conversations with faculty about what concepts are critical to starting a college level course.
Inclusivity was a big concern for us. Our regional campuses serve students who may not have laptops or desktops or even home Wi-Fi. We also had libraries and computer labs that were completely shut down. So fortunately, Canvas provides a reliable app for Apple and Android devices that works very, very well. So with input from test students and input from our e-learning department, we made sure that ADA guidelines were followed, and it is exceedingly rare to find college students who do not have smart devices. So while it's not the best format for a placement test, It gave an option that virtually anybody could use. So scoring, very easy. Canvas scoring capabilities are very reliable and very customizable. You can build in tolerance to address rounded answers. You can accept answers in different formats, all very easy to set up and edit. A simple concordance table with our existing AccuPlacer scale that already existed and was already trustworthy. That enabled us to not have to do any tech adaptation on Miami's back-end computer systems. So when we enter placement scores, it's all even. Probably the biggest concern and the biggest point of contention and discussion was test security. The Proctorio add-on that works very well through Canvas is a very secure option, but again, not available to all students. The aforementioned lack of access to the equipment. The student doesn't have a webcam, we can't exclude them from testing. So to combat that, we structured Canvas to pull placement questions from a pool. So there's various iterations of each question, and a disclaimer warning of the dangers of overplacement. Please don't use a photomath app. You're going to get placed into a course that you're not ready for. These were all compromises that we made to preserve quality, but also involve a bit of test security. I'll let Ralph explain the I don't know option.
Thanks, Brad. I completed a few versions of the AccuPlacer math placement test back when we were using them. And they require test takers to answer every multiple choice question. So I believe if students have no idea how to answer a question, they should be able to pass or say, I don't know. So we added an I don't know option to each of our questions in Canvas. We felt with AccuPlacer that students could be overplaced just due to lucky guessing, and our test aimed to reduce the risk of that happening.
Thank you. Practice resources. Our former director firmly believed in a lot of studies that showed that some structured practice before a placement test gave you better placement testing data. So we have practice questions that are built into both branches of our math test. And the practice resources serve two specific purposes. Number one, they activate the math schema. They warm up the engine, so to speak. And two, they emulate the test experience. Students know what it looks like and it feels like to take the math placement test. We use the same question pool approach so that students could go through the practice material several times and get different iterations or different questions each time. We're able to track that. Some students went through the practice 10 or 12 times. Each practice question also contains an embedded link to a Khan Academy or YouTube video that will demonstrate the concept or the skill that's being addressed. Miami Regional's writing specialists also developed an in-house writing placement test. That was approved and constructed in conjunction with the English department, and they're very happy with it. The test serves both our native English speakers as well as our ELL, English Language Learners subgroup. So for more information on the writing placement test, if you want to put your contact information in the chat, we can get you in touch with one of the writing team members. Or if you'd like to email Ralph Steichleather or myself, Brad Eggleston, we'll put you in touch with those folks. They can tell you all about the details and how that was constructed and what kind of a job it's doing. So to wrap it up, some reflection. How did we do? Overall, our placement seemed to be very accurate for the fall. Very few students have reported feelings of over or under placement, and Ralph and I are usually the first line of defense for those kind of concerns. The few that we had didn't even come through our in-house placement testing. They came in with ACT scores. Generally, we'll get feedback from math faculty who tell us, I feel like a student is over or underplaced. I've heard nothing from faculty. Everybody seems to be in the right place. Last thing we did was we separated the practice questions and the actual placement test into two separate Canvas sites to alleviate confusion. Our biggest problem was students would go in and complete the practice questions, and then assuming they were done, they'd log off and wait for their placement. So we would love to tell you more about the placement. If you'd like to contact Ralph or myself, we can have a deeper conversation. But thank you for your attention. I hope everybody enjoys the other presentations. And we are getting the sign. It is time for me to sign off. So thank you very much.
It's very intimidating following math faculty because, you know, they're always going to have their materials wired. So my apologies in advance for being an English guy. I'm Jeff Wolf. I'm Dean of Humanities and Sciences at Cincinnati State. And we're going to also talk about our multiple measures placement journey. And this is more about our journey than it is about our placement protocols themselves. And so I just want to introduce you to our team, Dr. Andrew Trapp and Professor Alice Thompson, chairs of our English department, Dr. Stephanie Stafford, our current mathematics chair, and Professor Michael House, former math chair, and was truly our lead on our placement discussion. Now, at Cincinnati State, our planning for multiple measures for placement goes back to around 2015 when a small group of us on the College Placement Committee participated in a webinar based on John Hett's presentation, Let Icarus Fly, which I'm sure lots of people have seen. So if you consider the genesis of this work, I guess it means that our journey toward multiple measures for placement has gone about 5 years, but the majority of that time really was spent evangelizing around the college to build a coalition of like-minded faculty and administrators who had built up enough trust around the college that the academic divisions and senior administrations were eventually willing to give things a try. Once multiple measures at Cincinnati State tipped, though, it tipped very, very fast. So from the time we actively started practicing our placement protocols, and this was done using only our Associate of Arts and our Associate of Science advisors, until the time that the provost was convinced that we should implement multiple measures at scale, was actually less than a year, probably closer to about 5 months of practicing this. The success was undeniable. And so we actually did a mid-year implementation of multiple measures, which began in January of 2020. And the way we sort of think about it at Cincinnati State is that this was like one of those drug trials where you find that your group receiving the medication is having such amazing improvement that you have to eventually stop the trial and put everyone on the medication. The added benefit, of course, is doing this mid-year, which was not an uncontroversial move, especially if you talk to our enrollment and student development folks, was that when the pandemic hit, we were able to seamlessly continue placing our students in math and English right away for summer semester. And this is just using our data for fall, just so you can see. By fall of 2020, between our co-requisite instruction in all gateway courses except for college algebra, and again, we are in math pathways, so you'll see for us a quantitative reasoning pathway, a stats pathway, and a calculus pathway. And like everyone else, we're struggling with that college algebra issue. But what you'll see is that and so one of the things that we had to do in order to get this done so fast was rely on a lot of goodwill from our colleagues. And so we cashed in a lot of earned credit with our colleagues and sort of got them to agree to some of these stipulations. And one is we had to get the college to understand that students are regularly underplaced by standard instruments, and that those instruments are inequitably placing our students. And while it's something that we've all been paying attention to, um, current practice, even with our co-requisite at scale, is not closing the gaps fast enough. And multiple measures, we've seen enough evidence that there's a record that it will help us close those gaps. And I don't know about your institutions, but at our institutions, we love to study things. We like to say things like, we're Cincinnati State, we're different, we have to study it as it applies to us. And this was a challenge for us to overcome. And so one of our biggest benefits of the doubt that we required from our colleagues was, can we all stipulate that other smart people have studied this, they understand, they know, and we presented them some models between, California models, and North Carolina was one that was big for us, and you can see that in our protocols as you go forward. And then for our part, we made this promise that our protocols would remain flexible and they would remain subject to ongoing review and revision. And it's something that we're continuing to do very much on the fly to make sure that things are constantly meeting the needs of our advisors and our students, because frankly, without your advisors, it's never going to work. Our guiding principles really surrounded this idea about including the students as partners in the process. And so for us, it was very important to us that everyone understand that multiple measure placement is a holistic approach to understanding the whole student, not just their test scores or their GPAs, but their levels of confidence, their barriers to success, and to factor all of those types of things into our placement. Our multiple measures advising process is very much a conversation, and when that conversation works well, the students seem to be very, very happy with it. But that's also a big change for advising that has often just been placed on numbers. And then maybe our most important guiding principle is this: when in doubt about where to place a student, we're asking our advisors to place upwards. In the past, everyone knows that there's been a movement to sort of place students lower than we think that they might be successful, so that they can gain some success. Our primary placement tools, high school GPA, we are placing anyone with a high school cumulative average of 2.8 or above directly into curriculum level, into gateway level math and English. Anyone with a 2.0 to 279 is going into either our English 1+, Comp 1+, or co-requisite math courses. We're using transcripts. We're factoring in things like time away from school. We have some great tools like scripted conversation starters that we're happy to share with folks. If you might want to see them, just let any of us know. And something that we refer to as our math eye chart, which is not so much a test, but a way to put some problems and thoughts in front of students to get a sense of what they recognize and what they don't recognize, as a way to sort of circle around placement. We also have a math placement grid that, if you've seen Let Icarus Fly, is modeled on that. Challenges that I would just point out: advisor training and retraining. It took us about a month to train all of our advisors, and we're constantly recentering those advising trainings. At the start, we found that advising took a little longer using this method. For a while, we had moved actually to 1-hour advising appointments. That was not particularly efficient. We're now that we're getting better at it, advisors are moving back to 45-minute, half-hour advising appointments. While this was happening, it relied on a lot of availability from our English and math specialists to help advisors do the placements. And this should not be underestimated. When you stop using AccuPlacer scores, and we are not using the AccuPlacer at all, we are not administering the AccuPlacer to any of our students, but many of our prerequisites in data tell are pegged to AccuPlacer scores. This created a little disruption. It was nothing that we weren't able to overcome, but it was problematic. We still are having conversations about how to place our English language learners, since multiple measure placement for ELL students really does take a bit more of a specialty. We don't know yet how on-the-fly adjustments are going to be working, and frankly, like everyone else, since this has taken hold right during the pandemic, we don't necessarily trust our data to be telling us what it might be telling us when we have a combination of face-to-face and remote courses. Though our summer data is very encouraging and looks comparable in the English courses, and frankly in the math courses actually a little better than it's ever looked in online. So I apologize that I got interrupted here. I'm sorry I had to speed through, but that's what we've got for now. And like I said, any of us will be happy to talk to you about what we're doing in more detail if you want. Just let us know.
Thank you very much. So we're going to talk about our accelerated learning program that was a pilot at UC Blue Ash College. Go to the next slide. Sorry, I'm having a little difficulty getting this to work. So UC Blue Ash College, we have about 5,000 undergraduate students who overall, and we wanted to prepare our faculty for this accelerated learning program. So we had fall, and spring, and summer workshops. In the summer workshop, we got together the faculty from the English department, both full and part-time faculty who were interested in learning more about the accelerated learning program and how we manage it. In the fall and spring, we had other individualized trainings for the specific faculty who were teaching the courses in those semesters. And then Sonia Andrus and I also observed the faculty who were teaching the courses to provide them with feedback and support. And then they were also invited to come into the classrooms for other instructors to see how other instructors developed and implemented the ALP in their own courses. So we found that that kind of faculty preparation throughout was very beneficial to our faculty. So in the pilot, the Strong Start to Finish grant gave us the opportunity to provide this more systemic and systematic support for our faculty. In the beginning, 2 initial faculty developed the training and the materials for the ALP. Dr. Sonia Andrus and myself, we're both composition researchers, and so this was an area that we were very interested in, and we had been exploring before the Strong Start to Finish was available. So this was perfect for us. We implemented a pilot of 2 courses in fall semester of 17, running it again in spring semester. And then we were able to increase the number of courses offered by providing additional training for other faculty outside of the courses, so that we've been able to scale up so that at this point in fall semester of 2020, we have 6 ALP courses running at this time. And these are offered by faculty who are not us. So we have both full and part-time faculty offering the courses this spring semester. Sonia, did you want to add anything?
I guess one thing is that we got wide departmental buy-in by having the summer workshop and having an online version of that workshop later. So both full-time and part-time faculty were able to see what it was going to be about, how it was going to provide a different kind of support than a traditional developmental course. And I really think that that was the way that we started to get a shift in perspective of what developmental education could look like for folks who hadn't really been doing this kind of research before.
And so some of the things that it looks, that ALP looks like here, the curriculum gives us an opportunity to build stronger courses for 1001 that provides support for our students who would be placed into a developmental level course. So what we've done for our students is we place 10 students who are identified as college level ready, with 10 students who would have been placed into a developmental English course. And so those 20 students together are in the same class. And then the 10 developmental students go to a second hour with the same instructor to provide more flexible instruction during that second hour to help them complete the work of the 1001 course. And a lot of work in the 99 level course is the focus on student behavior and motivation and practicing time management, those kinds of things, discussing the student behaviors that will help them with success in the 1001 course and in other classes. The pedagogy, we focus on assignment design with provided student support, and we're heavy into the process approach of providing multiple opportunities to draft and redraft with support and guidance from faculty and from other students in the class. Some of the challenges for our ALP has been our registration system because it doesn't recognize a co-requisite. So right now our developmental course is a prerequisite, and getting the permission to get students into a 1000 level English course is a problem. So we've had lots of workarounds. We've had to develop some wonderful relationships with our advisors who've done everything they can to help our students get into these classes. Anything else about that slide before we move on, Sonia?
I think the biggest thing for us is the inability to scale up much more than what we have right now because of the registration problems. That's been a big thing that we've learned, is that there's lots of buy-in from even the top administrators, but not a lot of ways to fix that technical problem. So yeah.
So our findings are very positive. We find significantly higher completion rates for all the students enrolled. So it didn't seem that great when we looked at 72% of ALP students successfully complete the class, and 63% of our developmental courses complete the course. But where it's a real difference is that 72% of ALP means students have the 1001 credit, but only 41% of our students who complete 99 also go on to complete 1001. So that's for us where the big change is. We are getting more students through 1001 with the ALP. So here's some specific term data. Did you want to talk about any of this, Sonia?
Well, hope my son does not come bounding through the door. I hear him in the hallway. Basically, this is just looking at one particular sample year to give us a comparison. So 420 students total enrolled in English 0099, which is our developmental course that we targeted for the ALP. And that includes the 38 students who were the 0099 ALP enrolled students. Of those 420 students, 373 received a grade, and we have A minus all the way down to C minus. And then if a student can't earn a C minus, we give them an NP, a not proficient. And that also included the W's, the UW's, and the X's. So the students who withdrew, unofficially withdrew, or simply never showed up, but also didn't bother to drop or withdraw, and were given an X. So that's 47 students who dropped before the census date and didn't earn a grade. Of those grades, the 0099 sections, that was 338 of the students. And so you can see that the majority of our 0099 ALP students made it through. There was one student in that sample year who dropped the ALP and enrolled in a standalone section and did successfully complete that term. So when we were looking at just like making it to the end of the term, we have a higher percentage in the ALP of just getting them to the end of the term than we do in the standalone 0099. So when we think about the ALP data itself, there are some things that we learned and are quite compelling. So 72% of the students enrolled at census date successfully complete their ALP. We have had a term as high as 88% in one semester, which is fabulous for us because that's markedly different than the standalone 99, where we hold steady, right around 63%. So the overall impact of ALP has been really positive. The shift to online learning in spring certainly had an impact. We saw that we lost more students in the ALP than we have in previous terms, but we lost more students across everything. And the majority of the students who disappeared had actually already stopped working. It was not the shift to online around spring break. So some things that we've been thinking about: what makes the ALP students more successful than standalone 0099 students? Certainly there's the community that they build within the cohort of the 10 students, right? They're spending a lot of time together, they're working together in different ways, but they also report in their own reflections on the course about learning with peers across the two settings and how it impacts the way they think about learning, the way they think about themselves. And that working with students who are on pace is really important. And many of them have reported a sense of belonging on campus that they didn't feel at the beginning. And so that's kind of an important part of that too. If you're looking to contact us, there's our information.
Hello, everyone. We were asked to share some of our good news with you today about the success in our co-requisite courses that we've seen over the past 2 years. So I put together this chart just to show you the comparison between, you can see in most cases, the courses that are offered with the co-rec, which is our blue bars, are either at the same level or exceed the success rates as the gateway course itself. And we stuck with the fall semesters because our spring 2020 was kind of questionable as to whether those rates were comparable. But we did make some changes in the fall of 2019 that we thought were significant, that kind of added to the success, because you can see the success from fall 2018 to fall 2019 went up in almost every single one of our courses, both with the co-rec and without the co-rec. So a couple things we did, we did implement a new placement policy effective fall of 2019, where any student who was entering with an ACT math subscore of 27 or below 27, or an SAT math subscore below 630, used ALEKS PPL to determine the starting course within their math pathway. So in most cases, that's will you take the course with a co-rec or without a co-rec. Then the other significant change as far as the courses go is we started using an ALEKS course product in both college algebra and trigonometry. And you can see the difference in success rates between fall 2018 and fall 2019 in the college algebra that did not have the co-rec. So I imagine, that may have been a significant impact with that. But the one thing that we also think had some influence on these success rates was that we offered a professional development workshop the summer before 2019. And I want to share my outline with you here so that you can see some of the things that was involved with that. We had offered several professional development workshops. We try to do them every summer to keep faculty and adjuncts, in line with the new things that we're doing, like the co-requisites and different placement policies and everything. So what we wanted to focus on this past summer was really pedagogy. So we reached out to our colleagues on campus. We have an Institute for Teaching and Learning, or Institute for Excellence in Teaching and Learning. And we also have a Center for Student Progress. And so we actually invited them to come and offer this 3-day workshop. And so they covered topics like how to motivate your students, They covered growth mindset versus fixed mindset, excellence in teaching, how to give better assessments, how to get students involved in active learning, how to create a positive classroom culture. And that was over the span of 3 days. And it was a pretty big production, so we wanted to find a way to keep it sustainable so that people who were not able to attend, or maybe future adjuncts or future graduate teaching assistants, would have access to those same resources. So we created a Blackboard course, which is our learning management system, for professional development, added all of our faculty to that course, so they have access to everything in it. We recorded the sessions kind of like in each different group. We included the PowerPoint slides that were shared with us. And then, excuse me, we also created kind of these quizzes. And the quizzes, the intention of the quizzes was to make sure that our incoming graduate teaching assistants would actually go through and watch the recordings and look at the PowerPoint slides. And the feedback that we got from them was that it was helpful. The quizzes were actually helpful because it kind of guided what they should pay attention to in the recordings. So we had really good results from that. And then we also did follow up with a focus group that met throughout the fall semester and kind of shared ideas that they were implementing in their courses, that they had learned from this workshop, and shared different ideas that way and got feedback. So it was kind of a continuation. So Tom, I don't know if you have anything that you want to add there. I can put those success rates back up.
Just, you know, it was a real team effort to kind of construct the professional development and to make these changes and to see them through. And so it was really nice to have a great team working on this issue. And I think that these positive results, you know, are indicative of the work that they put in.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Dryden. I'm the provost at Lorain County Community College. And what we would like to do is to provide you with an overview of our approach to co-requisite remediation and English and mathematics, which have been really key to our success and improvement of our graduation rates over the past several years. So we have a What Matters Most dashboard, which is a dashboard of leading indicators of student completion and success. And one of the things that we've identified is that the indicators most predictive of success for our students are completion of college level English and math in the first year, and also completion of 15 or more credit in the first year. And students who hit those marks have an 80% likelihood of completing a degree or certificate within 6 years. And you can see on the table the progress that we've made in that area over the past several years. And this can be directly attributed to our scaling of the co-requisite model in English and our development of our math pathways. What this doesn't reflect is our much more recent adoption and scaling of co-requisite in statistics and quantitative reasoning. So we're really eager to see what this will look like in another year or two. So right now, I'm going to turn it over to our English faculty, Justin Sevenker and Molly Chambers, who will talk about our approach with co-requisite in English, and then they'll turn it over to Aaron Weiss and Blurta Dario, who will talk about what we've done in math.
Thanks, Jonathan. I have here our original English sequence, which is probably the typical for across the state. We had our English 011 at 2 levels below, English 012 at 1 level below, and then English 161 was our college comp course. And probably around 2010 or so, we had data back from in-house that said 86% of our students who passed 012 with a C or higher in 012 would earn a C or higher in English 161, which seemed in some respects like, a positive bit of information. But then when we dug deeper, we saw that less than 50% of the English 012 students actually passed that course. So on the next slide, we'll see what we did with that information, because we had so many students who weren't moving on ahead. We spent a lot of time looking at the ALP program from Community College of Baltimore County, and we created our pilot really to mirror theirs. We did a couple of things differently that have worked out very well. We have 2 credit hours for the co-rec instead of 3. We have 10 students per co-rec section instead of their 8. And we have 25 total students in the paired 161, which is our college comp, and they had 20. We found that in around 2012, 2013, when we were working with our pilot, it was very successful. And it was so successful that we went on to place all of those students who initially were in English 012 into English 061, our newly created co-rec course. And on the next slide, we'll see that when our initial pilot went to scale, 83% of the 061 students passed both the co-rec and the freshman comp in the first year. And that for a minute, we even had a better rate than CCBC did. But what we decided to do was to really bring some of those English 011 students from the 2 levels down up. And so we lowered our cut scores. And it did bring the overall success rate down a bit, but we really felt it was so vital to allow these students to have this chance. So you can see here in the graph that in 2018, we actually had the same success rate for our 061 students in college comp as we did for the students who initially tested into college comp. We fell off a little bit in 2019, but we're working on it. And Justin's going to share a lot of information about what we've been doing to move this along. And then on our final slide, you can see that we have definitely made some improvements in closing the gap. So if you look back to 2011, we had such a wide range of success rates between African-American, Hispanic and Latino and white students. And in 2017, we almost closed that gap between white students and Hispanic students. And we've fallen off a little bit there, but definitely our improvements have been very great. And Justin's going to talk about a few more things that we're currently doing to make those improvements even greater in the future.
Sure. Thanks, Molly. Yeah, now that we have our co-rec in place and it's pretty successful, we've been focusing on what additional resources and supports we can put in place to further improve those students' experience and the instructors' experience teaching the courses. So thanks to the Strong Start to Finish grants that we've received, we've been able to give a lot of professional development to our co-requisite instructors, including bringing in Susan Gabriel, who is one of the leaders for co-requisite English education at CCBC. She came for a day-long workshop with our instructors to talk about course design and assignment creation and pedagogy working with these students. But as well as bringing in folks from the outside, we've been able to do a lot of in-house professional development with our instructors, ranging from just assignment sharing and discussions about best practices and challenges that our instructors are seeing in the classroom, to very recently having to provide workshops about how do you teach co-requisite online, either asynchronously or synchronously, because before, so much of what made that course successful is being able to meet in person, you know, with your cohort and with this instructor. And so we've been trying to support our instructors in this move online. We've also this year just launched a dedicated writing center where we now have English success coaches who are there specifically to work with our English 061 co-requisite students. These coaches make direct relationships with the instructors of the co-rec and work with them to think about how the writing center and the English success coaches can be a part of those students' experiences to help support them through their journey. We are over halfway through our time, so I want to leave some time for the math folks to talk. So if anybody would like to hear more about these projects that we have ongoing, please just feel free to contact us.
And Justin, I just want to chime in real quick that everything we're doing, as you could see from the past slide, is really tying into our new equity agenda and trying to make sure that we have equitable outcomes from all our students. So we continue to work on that and provide training on that issue as well. So take it away, Aaron and Blairta.
Hi, yeah, I'm Aaron Weiss, Dean of Science and Math. I'll start off by briefly talking about our goal with mathematics, and then turn it over to Blairta to give a little bit more details about our co-requisite courses specifically. Of course, our goal, just like Strong Start to Finish, is increasing gateway math within the student's first year. Our largest enrollment courses for mathematics are quantitative reasoning and statistics. And so that's where we thought we'd have the biggest impact with designing co-requisite courses to improve these success rates for students. And so that's exactly what we've done. In fall of 19, we replaced all developmental education with paired co-requisite courses for quantitative reasoning and statistics, which of course made a large number of increases in sections and staffing needs that we didn't necessarily have before. I don't know if it's the same for others, but we had a lot of faculty who were traditionally developmental math faculty only, and so we made the commitment that the co-requisite would be taught by the same faculty member as who teaches the paired college level course. So what that did is it limited the number of the availability of some of our faculty. And so staffing was a bit of an issue with that, but we've had some nice actually overall success despite the shutdown from COVID in the spring. If you see sort of, I apologize, the graphs are a little small. These are our rates that we've recently found for our statistics co-requisite and our statistics statistics co-requisite and the course, and you can see that they're fairly consistent with previous semester success rates of the stats course only. So Blairta, I don't know, it looks like we don't have much time left, so if there's anything you want to talk about briefly for the course structure.
Thank you, Aaron. Yes, everyone, my name is Blairta Hereditario. Good morning. The only thing I would say is if you plan on creating co-requisite models for your courses, allow for enough time to create the material. It took me from January until August of 2019 to create the materials for this course. So just make sure you allow enough time for that.
And when she says that enough time to create the materials, we were committed to having all of the co-requisite materials be OER materials developed by our own faculty, so that there was no additional cost beyond the tuition to the student for the paired course. We do not really even care about what happens in the paired course as long as they complete the college level class, right? That's the goal. And so we don't want additional burden to be put on the student for being placed into that paired course. Thanks.
And of course, the other part of our model is adopting a Math Foundations Lab, which is free for students who aren't placing yet into the co-rec course using the Alex adaptive technology so that they can work on their skills at their own pace until they are able to place into the co-requisite.
Hi, my name is Emily Boyer. I'm the program manager at Hocking College, and I'm with Diane Fleming, our lead math instructor. Today, we're going to go over our co-requisite model. Our timeline, autumn of 2017, we went to full scale for English and algebra and statistics. 2018, we compressed courses. We went from 16 weeks to 2 8-week terms in a semester. The following year, we changed our courseware as well as our learning management system. Diane's going to go in and focus primarily on algebra.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Emily. So as Emily said, in 2017 is when we started our co-requisite model, and at that time we eliminated all developmental courses. We use a paired model. The students register for a separate course section for supplemental instruction, and our idea was to use just-in-time remediation. The gateway courses are 4 credits for those courses listed at the top there, and the co-requisite section is 1 credit with 2 contact hours. For placement into co-requisite, we've used multiple measures. We give AccuPlacer testing. We started out testing them in the classroom at the beginning, and we also use some other scores. We have used both setups with the same instructor or a different instructor in co-requisite, and either one of those works well for us as long as there's regular communication between instructors. So the college algebra course, being in the STEM path track, many of you might be aware, it just requires a larger set of skill sets to have mastered to be ready to succeed in college algebra. So that caused a little bit more of an issue when we moved into co-requisite for college algebra. So, and then when we compressed the courses from 16 weeks into 8 weeks, that issue was highlighted even more. So when we moved into new courseware, Hocking College adopted Cengage Unlimited. So we wanted to take advantage of the savings there for students in the math department. So we did switch into Cengage products and courseware. And at that time when we were doing that work, I used the opportunity to front load some intermediate algebra content in the college algebra course, so that I was essentially using a 101 plus model idea. Another big issue is students having poor learning behaviors, things like time management and how to prepare for a test, how to take notes and how to use them and how to use other resources. They are more and more coming in lacking these behaviors. So they're kind of hard to measure, and I was really interested in understanding how big of an effect the learning behaviors might have on their success rates. So I tried to quantify this, and I ran a little experiment with another instructor helped me, an adjunct instructor that was teaching the co-requisite at the time. And we set up a rubric and defined some items to examine their learning behaviors displayed in the classroom, as well as their work outside of the classroom to do with their coursework. So I don't have a lot of time to go into the details here, but we scored their active effort and learning behavior display in the course. And I analyzed the data, and you can see here there is a strong positive correlation showing on this regression line. So this is their learning behavior score against their course grade. So that really made me feel like it was worth putting in a lot of energy and time working on addressing learning behaviors. So some of the challenges that we ran into, some I've mentioned already and a few others. And so I want to just go through those and some of the actions that we took to overcome these. The registration procedures at first were a little bit chaotic. When we first dove in, the very first time was a mess. And we were giving the AccuPlacer test the first day of class. Students came in and they didn't know this was going to happen. They didn't even know that they might end up with this co-requisite class on their schedule. So it kind of was a negative experience because it was new to students, it was new to faculty. So we quickly corrected things there, and we've taken the testing out of the classroom because we need that class time. And we've learned how to market the benefits of the co-requisite design to the students. So it's now a positive experience. Some of them are excited to sign up for it and get that extra help. Also the just-in-time remediation for college algebra specifically seems to not be quite enough to address that large amount of skill sets they need to begin succeeding in the class. So as I mentioned, I front-loaded intermediate algebra topics, and that has helped a lot. Another big issue is students lacking course materials. So they don't always have the resources, of course, or or even know what they need to get and that they need to get it fast. So they like their calculator and access to their books and things like that. And even having access to a computer is a big thing. So the college has helped with some initiatives address this issue, not just for math, but across the board. So Hocking has an all-inclusive learning materials fee now. So the students are assessed a fee when they register, and this covers their books, their access to online courseware that they might need, and even equipment for their technical classes. So they have almost everything they need from day one. And we used Strong Start to Finish grant funds to stock up calculators in our department so that students that need a calculator are able to get one. And the college just started a bring your own device policy. So students are required to have a device that meets certain specifications. So that has really cleaned up a lot of the issues with students complaining that they weren't able to do their homework or study because they didn't have access to a computer. I'm not getting those complaints or excuses anymore. Learning behaviors is a big issue that I just talked about for a little bit. So I'm finding that I'm starting to spend more classroom time addressing these soft skills, so to speak, teaching students how to use notes and how to prepare for their tests. Time management, so we go through a lot of ideas, and they're all different, of course, for different individuals. So we're working on that, and I aspire to have a more structured way to work on that in the future. Also, another issue is the student mindset. Really, when we first went into this, just was not aligned with what was going on and the positive benefits of it. So now I have a protocol of sending out early information and explaining the entire design, what the co-requisite is, and even the details of why they might need that, and also the other resources and the workload to expect, so that it isn't a surprise and they get in over their head with planning the time that they need to succeed in the class. So here are our completion rates for college algebra. You can see autumn 2017, during that first year when we went into co-requisite, there was quite a dip. And then as we worked on some of those items I was just discussing, we're having a lot of success with the front loading, I think was a big thing, and working on success skills for students. I do want to note that spring 2020 data, that was not affected by the pandemic. That data is from the first 8 weeks of that semester before the lockdown occurred. So the main takeaways to recap, for college algebra, I think we're finding that front loading some prerequisite skills at the beginning before diving straight into the college algebra material is very helpful, and really spending some time addressing learning behaviors as much as math skills, and setting up the student mindset with good communication. So I think our time is just about out. So I'm just going to wrap up and make sure you get our contact information. So please reach out if you have questions, because we don't have time for discussion, and we'd love to hear from you. Thank you.